students, in last class we discussed about lens and we understood what primary focus and secondary focus means in the case of a lens, right. So, we will continue from there. So, today we will learn about how to draw ray diagrams to locate where the image is being formed and what is the nature of the image formed by a lens and derivation of lens formula, right. So, this is what would be the topics of discussion. Okay. So, first of all let us try to understand some standard ray diagrams which we will be using in understanding the image formation, just like we have drawn in the case of mirrors. So, even here let us first understand some standard ray diagrams. Okay. So, if I consider a lens, so we have seen that a lens will generally have two focus, right. One will be on this side and the other will be on the other side, primary focus and secondary focus. I hope you remember the definitions. So, whenever required I will repeat them once again, right. So, generally when I consider a lens, in this case I am considering a convex lens. So, we can say that if this end is represented as f, I mean if this is a focus of that particular lens, this would be the primary focus. If an object is placed here, the light rays which are falling onto that lens after refraction will become parallel to the principal axis. So, in the same manner we will also be representing another position which is 2f, right, on both the sides. So, here we will have f which will be the secondary focus if light is travelling from here. So, in the same manner we will have 2f in the sense the distance will be twice the focal length of that particular lens. Okay. So, if this is how the lens is, so this is the first ray diagram which we will be generally using. So, we know that whenever an object is placed at the focus, so or we can say that any light ray which is passing through the focus, if it strikes the lens in this manner, so you can say that this is the incident ray which is passing through the focus. So, after refraction from the lens we can say that it becomes parallel to principal axis, clear. So, that is the idea. So, this is one ray diagram which we will be using, and similarly if we see one more. So, once again if I consider a similar lens, so f, 2f, f and 2f. So, next case what we can say is, so whenever a light ray is incident parallel to the principal axis, so it will pass through the focus on the other side, right. So, this would be the second ray diagram. So, here whatever I have drawn in the first case corresponds to the primary focus, and whatever I have drawn in the second case, this focus corresponds to the secondary focus. So, that is how we defined in last class as well, right. And similarly the next ray diagram which we can draw would be like this. So, if this is once again the principal axis, f and 2f, f, okay. So, if this is how the lens is, so in this case what we can say is, if there is a light ray which is incident at the pole of that particular lens at any angle, so whatever be the angle, so if this angle is theta, so this is the incident ray, so it is incident at the pole of the lens. So, we can say that this light ray will pass through undeviated. So, whatever direction that the light ray was incident, so it passes through the lens without undergoing any deviation, right. So, that would be another light ray which we would be using, and there is a reason for this also. So, why the light ray passes through undeviated when it passes through the pole? See, the reason is like this. See, we know that this is something which we generally discussed in plane surface refraction. So, whenever we have a glass slab and if a light ray is incident on this glass slab in this manner, let us say. So, if a light ray is incident in this manner, we know that this light ray bends once it enters, it bends towards the normal, and once again it goes out in this way, correct. And if you observe, because this surface and this surface are parallel to each other, we have discussed that whatever is the angle at which the light ray is incident, whatever is this angle I, so it comes out also at the same angle I. You remember that? So which means the light ray in the direction in which the light ray was incident will be same as the final direction in which the light ray comes out, although there would be a small lateral displacement. So we have derived the value of that also, right? So there would be some small displacement in the light ray. So instead of traveling along this line, it will just shift parallelly and travel along this direction. But remember that there is no deviation. Deviation means angle changing, clear? So in this case there is no change in angle, correct? So that is the scenario. So now this case which I have used here in the case of lens. So if I consider a lens which is like this, so I am considering a convex lens, as you can see, right? So if you look at this, if this is the pole, let us say, so you can easily say that this part is having some curvature, all these are tilted, right? So all these are having curvature. So everywhere over here we have a curvature. But if I consider the small part which is very close to the principal axis here, so if I just look at this part, so the one which you can see in the form of a rectangle there, in 3 dimension it looks like a cuboid, right? So this small part which you see, can I say that this end and this end of that are near flat surfaces, are close to being flat? Because you can see that for this surface, if I draw a tangent here, it will be vertical, right? So if this surface here is very thin, if I consider a very thin surface or thin element which is very close to the principal axis, I can say that this surface is almost vertical, even this surface will be almost vertical, and this scenario, this small part can be understood to be behaving similar to that of a glass slab. So which means the light ray which is incident at the pole, clear, will come out at the same angle. So whatever is this angle theta, so we can say that it comes out also at the same angle theta. Although like I told you, there might be a small lateral displacement in this manner, but we can say that because we are talking about a thin lens, so all the discussion which we are doing here is that of a thin lens. So you know that in the case of thin lens, this thickness of that small slab, that thickness will be very small. So if that thickness is very small, even this lateral displacement will also be very small. So we can neglect that. So I will write it down here. So the lateral displacement produced, can be neglected because it is a thin lens. So what we are looking at here is that there is no lateral displacement. We can consider that there is no lateral displacement because of the very thin width of that particular lens, and like I told you, there will definitely not be any deviation. So this is nothing but a parallel glass slab, right? This surface and this surface will be parallel to each other. That doesn't happen at any other position. If a light ray is incident somewhere over here, you can see that this surface will be like this. You can see that, right? So this surface is slant. If I draw a tangent here, the surface here will be slant, and similarly on the other side it will be slant onto this side. So the two surfaces will be something like this, in similar to that of a prism. So like we see in the case of a prism, the two surfaces will be inclined at some angle, right? So even in the lens, if I consider a light ray which is striking here, so if I draw a tangent there and similarly on the other side, the two surfaces will be inclined, right? So that's why a light ray which is going to strike here will definitely undergo deviation, but a light ray which is striking at the center, because both the surfaces will be like this, near to parallel to each other, or both will be vertical in this particular scenario. So we can compare that with a glass slab and we can say that it does not undergo any deviation. So we can say in this case no deviation occurs. So, this is a very important property of a lens when light ray is incident at the pole of the lens, clear, whatever be the angle. So, the angle could be small, the angle could be even larger also, the light ray we can consider that it just passes through without any deviation and without any lateral displacement also, if the lens is very thin, right. So, that is the basic idea. So, we can use these 3 standard ray diagrams, right. So, there is also another ray diagram which basically I will discuss that after we derive the formulae. What it tells is that if we have a lens like this with this as f and this as 2f, and on the other side if I have f and 2f. So, if a light ray is passing through 2f on one side and incident on the lens, it passes through the 2f on the other side after refraction, clear. So, this is also another ray diagram, but as I told you, there is a reason which you will have to know for it, which we can only understand after deriving the formula, right. So, let us not use this for now. So, we can use these 3 ray diagrams, because we only need 2 ray diagrams, right. Whenever I need to understand the location of image, 2 rays are enough, right. So, we will use 2 of these 3 in any different case, clear. So, that is the idea. So, after this we will try to draw the ray diagrams for a convex lens. So, students, let us see how image is formed in the case of convex lens. So, we will see it case by case based on where the object is placed, clear. So, this is case 1. Okay. So, in this case let us say we are placing the object here between pole and focus, right. So, to represent it you can say u is less than f and greater than 0. It lies between the pole and focus, right. So, let us consider a scenario like this. So, we know that if I draw the standard rays, one light ray which is incident parallelly after refraction should pass through focus on the other side, right. So, this would be one light ray, and if I consider one more light ray, I can consider a light ray which is passing through the focus. So, let us say that would be something like this. So, a light ray which is incident onto the lens in this manner, which appears to come from the focus. So, we can say that after refraction this will become parallel to principal axis, right. So, the 2 light rays which are coming out of this lens, so if you look at these 2 light rays, so they are diverging rays. So, diverging rays will always imply that the image formed will be a virtual image, correct, because the light rays are not actually originating. So, when I extend this backwards, when I extend this parallel ray backwards as well as this ray backwards, right. So, we can observe that these 2 appear to meet at a point somewhere over here, correct. So, that is where the image appears to be formed. So, I will draw that. So, this would be where the image will be formed, and by looking at the image you can say the nature of that image. We definitely know that this image is a virtual image, correct, because you can see that the final light rays are diverging, they are not actually forming the image, the light rays are appearing to come from this particular position, and you can see that when compared to the object, this would be the object, right, and this would be the image. So, when compared with the size of the object, the size of the image is larger and it is also erect, correct. So, I can write down the nature of the image formed as well. So, I can say that the image formed in this case is virtual. So, which is because refracted rays are on the other side, image is on this side. I told you that if image is formed on the same side as the refracted rays, it means that refracted rays are actually forming that image, they are actually converging and forming that image. So, if refractive rays are on one side and image is on the other side, then it has to be virtual, correct. So, virtual image, and it is erect, magnified. So, that is what would be the nature of the image in this scenario, clear. Okay. So, in the next case, let us consider that the object is placed at the focus. So, let us say this is the object exactly on the focus. So, this would be case 2, and in this case the object distance will be f, right. So, if I take a light ray which is incident parallel to the principal axis, we know that that light ray after refraction will pass through the focus, right. Okay. Now, similarly, if I consider one more light ray which is incident at the pole, that light ray should pass through undeviated, correct. So, another light ray which is passing through the pole will travel in this manner. So, it passes through undeviated. So, these would be the two light rays which would be coming out, and if there is an observer who is viewing these two light rays, so you can see that the two light rays will become parallel after passing through the lens, correct. So, what does that mean? We can consider that these two light rays will go and converge at infinity, right. So, which means the image of this will be formed at infinity. Light rays are becoming parallel means that they are going to converge at infinity, which that is how we should understand, right. So, in this case we can say that image is formed at infinity, image is formed at infinity. And as I told you, whenever image is being formed at infinity, we cannot comment on the nature of the image, right, because you can consider, you can view these two light rays to be converging at that infinity, or you can say that these two light rays when extended backwards will converge at negative infinity. So, in such a scenario we cannot, there is no point in talking about the nature of the image, but we can definitely say that the image size would be enlarged, correct. So, you can see that this is the size of the object, whereas if these two continue till infinity, the size of the image that would be formed would be very large, right. So, we can say that in this case an enlarged image would be formed, enlarged image or magnified image, clear. So, that is the basic idea. Okay. Now, moving on to case 3. So, this is case 3. Okay. So, now, so we first place the object here, then at the focus. Now, let us place the object between 2f and f. So, if the object is placed here, now let us see where the image is formed. So, once again one light ray, the default light ray would be the parallel light ray which would pass through the focus. So, this would be the refracted ray, and if I consider one more light ray which is, let us say, incident at the pole like this. So, that light ray should pass through undeviated. So, this is another incident ray. So, this will pass through undeviated, and this will meet somewhere over here. So, you can see that the two light rays are actually intersecting at that point. So, this light ray and this light ray are intersecting at this particular point. So, which means the image is formed in this manner. So, this is how the image will be, clear. So, the two light rays are actually intersecting. So, I can clearly say that because it is formed by intersection of two actual rays, the image is a real image, right, and you can clearly see that the size of the image is greater than the size of the object. We will also derive that like we have done in the case of mirrors. So, we can prove that this is an enlarged image by using the formulae, right, but even from the ray diagram it appears like it is enlarged, right. Or you can use a very simple logic here. You can see that this is the height and this is the length, right. So, we know this angle and this angle are same. That is the idea of light ray passing through the pole. So, this angle and this angle would be same, correct. Now, we can clearly see that this length is smaller when compared to this length, which will automatically mean that this length will also be smaller when compared with this length, because this right angle triangle and this right angle triangle will be similar triangles. So, this length is smaller, so this height will also be smaller. This length is larger, this length will also be larger, clear. So, that is the idea. So, we can say that the image formed is a real, inverted and magnified image, clear. So, if the object is placed between f and 2f, the image is formed after 2f, right, between 2f and infinity. So that is the idea. Okay, now let's see the other cases. So we have placed between f and 2f. The next case would be if I place the object at 2f, right. So if I place the object at 2f, okay, so this is case 4. In this case u is equal to 2f. Okay. So now once again, after passing through the focus, after refraction it passes through the focus. Okay. So this is one light ray, and another light ray I can consider would be a light ray which is passing through the focus and striking the lens. So we can say that this one after refraction will become parallel in this manner, and these two light rays will intersect with each other, correct. You can also draw a light ray which is passing through the pole in this manner, that will exactly come to this position. So if I take another light ray which is passing through the pole, so even that will exactly come and meet at that position, right. So now you can say that if the object is placed at 2f, the image will also be formed at 2f. So this is once again the 2f position. So the image will also be formed at 2f. So this is the image and this would be the object, clear. So that is the idea. So what is the nature that we can say here? So the image is being formed by actual intersection of two rays. So we can clearly say that the image is a real image. And what about the size? If you use the concept which I told you earlier, this angle and this angle are same, correct, which means in this particular case this right angled triangle with this light ray, the one in the middle, the one passing through the pole. So make a right angled triangle using that, and this right angled triangle, they should be similar, correct, which means this length by this length should be equal to this length by this length. So using that concept, because this is 2f and this is 2f, we can say that this length and this length will be same as each other, right. So we can say real, inverted and same sized image will be formed. Or if you want to write it in terms of magnification in terms of m, what will be the value of m in such a scenario? 1? Is it plus 1? No, because it is an inverted image. So we know that heights above the principal axis are positive, below the principal axis are negative. So this should be a case where the magnification is minus 1. So you will see when we derive the formula for magnification for this particular scenario, you will get minus 1, right. Okay. So what is the next case? So this case corresponds to u greater than f and less than 2f. This is u is equal to 2f. So we have reached here. Now we will go this side, clear. So now case 5. So object is between 2f and infinity, right. So u is greater than 2f. So that is case 5. Okay. So let us draw the ray diagram. Once again, a parallel beam of or parallel ray after refraction will pass through focus. So this is one case, and you can take one more light ray which is passing through focus, okay, but I have drawn a smaller lens. Okay. So if I take one more light ray which is passing through the focus in this manner, so after refraction it should become parallel. So it should become parallel in this way, clear. So once it becomes parallel, you can see that the intersection point is over here. So this is 2f. So the image will be formed at this location. So that is how the image would be. And as you can see, if the object is after 2f, the image will be between f and 2f. So these two are reverse cases. So please observe closely. When the object is between f and 2f, between f and 2f, the image is after 2f, correct. But if the object is placed after 2f, the image will be formed between f and 2f. So, the reverse case. Okay. So, now you can tell me about the nature of the image here. So, obviously real, right. Two actual rays are intersecting. You can clearly see that it is an inverted image. So, real, inverted, and what about the size? It decreases, right, because once again I can use the same concept. If I take one light ray passing through the pole, that will definitely come and intersect at that position, correct, and this angle are same. This length is greater than this length. So, this height should be greater than this height. So, sometimes in the diagram it might not be very clear, but you can use the concept of the light ray passing through pole to understand, right. So, real, inverted and diminished. Okay. Moving on. So, the next case. So, we have seen all the cases, 5 cases which we have discussed. In all the cases the object was on this side of the lens. We have seen for different positions. So, all these cases correspond to real object, right, because all the light rays are diverging. This is a diverging light ray, this is diverging, right. So, in all these cases the incident light rays are diverging. So, now let us consider a scenario. So, case 6. So, in this case let us consider a virtual object. So, you know that virtual object basically means that the light rays which are incident on the lens are converging light rays, correct. So, let us say that it is somewhere over here. So, let us say this is the object, right. So, I will take light rays which are converging, which appear to converge at this position. So, if I take one light ray which is incident in this manner parallel to the principal axis such that it appears to go there, right. So, that is one light ray. We know that this light ray after passing through the lens will pass through focus. So, that is how it refracts. Okay. Now, let us take one more light ray which is passing through the focus, right, which is passing through the focus and striking the lens such that it appears to converge over here. So, let me draw that this way. Okay. So, if I consider a light ray which is incident in this manner, so if this is our incident ray such that you can see these two light rays will appear to converge at the virtual object, right. So, this light ray we can say that after striking the lens will become parallel to principal axis. So, this if it becomes parallel to the principal axis, so it travels like this, clear. So, you can clearly see that these two refracted rays are intersecting at this position forming the image over here. So, this is how the image would be formed, clear everyone. So, this is the idea. So, you can now clearly tell about what the nature of that image would be. So, you can see, is this a real image or a virtual image? This one here is a real image, right, because it is the intersection of two actual rays. I have told you anything that is formed on that side is a real image, anything on this side will be a virtual image. Okay. So, if I write the nature, so this is a real, you can see that the image is erect. So, whatever is the orientation of the object, same is the orientation of image, and diminished. So, that is the idea, students. So, we have done for all the cases, right. So, observe closely, write down, make a table once you have done this, write down a table representing the object location of each and every case and also the corresponding nature of the image formed in that particular case. You will observe a pattern there. So, you will observe that real image, real image, real image is formed, even here real image is formed, and here I told you that we cannot comment on the size of the or the nature of the image. So, except this, in all the 4 cases we have real images and there is only one case where a virtual image is formed, right. So, virtual image is formed only in one case, correct. And when is it formed? when the object is placed between the focus and pole. So, when the object is placed between the focus and pole, the image formed will be virtual image. So, if they ask you a question, can a convex lens form an inverted virtual image? Can it? Please see here. So, virtual image is erect and magnified, and there is only one case where virtual image is formed, correct. So, which means that virtual image should definitely be erect and definitely be magnified. So, a convex lens cannot form an inverted virtual image or a diminished virtual image. Let me write it down. We can understand that as the property of convex lens. Okay, I will write it in the next case, next discussion. Okay, so just understand it that way, clear. So, virtual image can only be erect and magnified, clear. It cannot be inverted or diminished in the case of a convex lens. So, that is the idea. So, it would be very clear for you if you make a table once you draw the ray diagrams. So, just make a table representing each and every object position and the corresponding nature of images, clear. So, students, this is what we can say about the discussion earlier. So, a convex lens cannot form a virtual diminished image, clear. So, that virtual image has to be erect and magnified, the first case which we have discussed, for when the object is placed between pole and focus. So, in that case only a virtual image is formed, and that too an erect and magnified image. Okay. And it can form a real image which is magnified, which is same sized, which is diminished. These three cases are possible for different positions of the object, correct. So, the real image can be of any nature, whereas virtual image has to be erect and magnified, clear. So, that is about the nature of convex lens. Okay, now let us understand in the case of concave lens. So, concave lens, I will not be doing all the 6 cases, I will show you one case which we generally deal with. So, students, in this case, if let us say I am considering an object which is placed on this side, a real object scenario. So, in the case of a concave lens, there is one thing which you will have to keep in mind. It does not matter where you are placing the object, clear. So, whether you place the object here or here or here. So, wherever you place the object, in the case of a concave lens, the image formed will always have the same nature, clear. So, I think you could understand this similar to the convex and concave mirror which we discussed earlier. So, when we compare this with the concave mirror scenario, so for concave mirror, if we have focus here and center here, so the real object could be here, 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 or even at the focus or at the center. But if I consider a convex mirror, so if I consider a convex mirror, I have told you that because the center and focus are on the other side, a real object has no different positions. So, each and every position is the same. You remember that, right? So, this is something which is similar to that, clear. So, that is how you should understand this case, right. So, for a diverging lens scenario, the object can be placed anywhere and it always forms the same nature of image. Okay. So, let us understand that now. So, let us place an object here, a real object. Okay. So, I will take light rays, one parallel light ray parallel to principal axis. We know that this is a diverging lens. So, it diverges this light ray in such a way that that light ray appears to come from focus, clear. So, this would be one light ray. Now, if I draw one more light ray, even in the case of concave lens, we can say that the light ray which is passing through the focus, through the pole, which is this, will pass through undeviated. So, if I consider one light ray which is incident in this manner, so this one would pass through undeviated like this, clear. So, that is the idea. So, these are the two final light rays which would be coming out, which means if there is a person who is receiving these two light rays from the other side, what will he think? He will think that these two light rays, these two diverging light rays are originating at this particular position, right. So, this is the position where he thinks that the light rays are coming from. So, we can say that this is where the image will be formed. So, that is the idea. So, what is the nature of this image? Let us try to understand that once again. What is the nature of this image? So, the light rays are diverging, which means they are not actually meeting to form the image, correct. So, we can say that this is once again a virtual image, virtual, erect, and you can see clearly that the size is smaller, so diminished. So, this would be the nature of image formed in the case of a concave lens. So, please observe the difference, clear. A convex lens cannot form a virtual diminished image, right, whereas a concave lens will form only a virtual diminished image if the object is real, clear. I am not discussing about the virtual case. So, virtual case is something which we do not deal with generally. If you want, you can try drawing the ray diagrams for virtual case. There will be different cases there. You can place the virtual object here, you can place the virtual object here or virtual object here, like in the case of convex mirror, clear. Okay. So, this is the idea. So, virtual image will be formed by both the lens for a real object, but convex lens can only form a magnified virtual image and concave lens can only form a diminished virtual image for a real object, clear. So, that is the idea. So, here this is the object and this is the image. So, that is the major difference between a convex and concave lens. So, try to practice the ray diagrams for the case of concave mirror for an object which is virtual, clear. Place it once between 0 and f, once between f and 2f, and try to practice the ray diagrams and understand the nature of the image formed, clear. So, before we move on to the derivation of lens formula, let me just tell you one small information. So, you would have observed that also. So, in all the earlier cases which we derived for a convex lens, and now as we have seen for the concave lens. So, convex lens will have its behavior exactly similar to that of a concave mirror. So, convex lens and concave mirror will form images in the same manner, clear. And similarly, concave lens and convex mirror will have same nature. So, what I mean same nature is, for example, listen carefully. So, I have taken a convex lens, we have seen the earlier cases. So, just go back once and look at any one case. For example, take a convex lens and look at what happened when the object was placed between f and 2f. For an object placed between f and 2f in the case of convex lens, see what was the nature of the image formed. So, you can turn your page and you can look at the earlier ray diagrams and also the nature which we have derived, and also look at, go back to the mirrors topic and look at, for a concave mirror, for an object placed exactly between the same scenario, look at what was the nature of image formed. You would observe that they will be exactly the same. So, convex lens and concave mirror will behave in the exact same manner, clear. So, that is the basic idea. All the nature of the images formed will also be same, clear. So, and the reason for that is pretty simple, because these two devices, both the devices are converging devices. Both the devices are converging devices. So, a concave lens also tries to converge a parallel beam, correct. Even if I consider a concave mirror, when a parallel beam of light rays are incident, so concave mirror also tries to converge the parallel beam, whereas convex lens also tries to converge the parallel beam, correct. So, both the devices will have same nature. The only difference is that whatever this device does, whatever image it does will be on this side, or all the reflected rays will be on this side, and for this all the refracted rays will be on this side. Only the side is changing, clear. The nature will be exactly the same. So, wherever you place it, I have just told you to look at this one case. It need not be this one case. you can map each and every case in this with each and every case in this. Go back and do that activity now, clear. So, pause it here and just go back and look at it, clear. So, you will definitely see that everything corresponding to this and this would be exactly similar. Now, in the same manner, like I have told you, convex lens and concave mirror are behaving in the same manner. By the same logic, I can say that concave lens and convex mirror also behave similar to each other, and the reason is both are diverging devices. So, these two are diverging devices. So, I can draw the diagram to show that. So, if I consider a convex mirror and if a parallel beam of light is incident onto it, you know what happens, right. So, this will get diverged in this manner, right. So, whatever beam is incident will diverge after passing, after reflecting from the mirror. In the same manner, if I consider a concave lens, so concave lens also does the same. So, if a parallel beam of light is incident, so after passing through the lens, it diverges. So, that is the idea. Like I told you, the only difference between mirror and lens is that they are happening on two different sides, but the nature is exactly the same. What kind of image is formed, what size of image is formed, everything will be exactly same except the side on which it is formed, right. So, that is the idea, students. So, convex lens, concave mirror converging, concave lens, convex mirror are diverging, clear. Students, now let us derive the lens formula, clear. So, I will consider a convex lens. So, this is the principal axis, and let us say that there is an object which is placed here. This medium has a refractive index of mu naught, let us say, and this medium has a refractive index of mu L, mu of lens. And let us consider that this surface which is on this side, so this surface, let us say it has a curvature of R1. Curvature in the sense, you know that this lens would be the part of a sphere, right. I have told you about the intersecting surfaces and non-intersecting surfaces. So, these would be spherical surfaces. So, if you consider a sphere like this, right, in which this surface is a part of, the distance between the center of that sphere and here will be the curvature, radius of curvature of this surface. Okay. So, R1, and let us say this one has a curvature of R2. Okay. Now, so light ray, let us say one light ray is incident in this manner, passing through the pole, will pass through undeviated, we know this, right. And let us consider that another light ray which is incident in this manner, which was actually travelling in this direction. So, these two light rays will be converged by the lens, correct. So, this light ray will travel from this direction towards this, but I do not know whether it is going to travel like this, like this, like this, or it might finally converge and form an image on this side itself. So, we do not know, but just for derivation, let me consider that it is converging like this and forming an image over here. So, you know that once I derive, I can finally apply the sign convention to find out, right. Okay. So, fine. So, that is how the image is formed. So, this is the scenario which I am considering. So, you can write the expression for curved surface refraction happening at this surface. Remember that whenever we are dealing with a lens, lens is nothing but two interfaces separating media, right. So, we have this interface, a curved interface separating mu L and mu naught, and again this interface which is separating mu L and mu naught. So, a light ray which is incident on that lens will undergo refraction twice, once at this surface, so and then again at this surface. So, it undergoes refraction twice and then it comes out. So, you can directly write two successive refractions formula. So, you can say you can write the curved surface refraction formula for this surface and take the image formed by this surface, that will act as the object for this surface, and finally that will form a final image. Clear? So, that is how we understand such scenarios. You can write separately the two equations, or you can directly use the method which we discussed in last class. So, where I told you that whenever we have successive refractions happening, I can directly write final medium refractive index by V. You remember this? Final medium's refractive index by V minus initial medium's refractive index by U is equal to, what did we write? Mu 2 minus mu 1 by R1, mu 3 minus mu 2 by R2, mu 4 minus mu 3 by R3, so on. So, we can do something similar to that. Clear? We can directly use that relation, or if you want, you can separately write the equation for this surface, take the image that will act as the object for this surface, and then find the location of final image. So, now that we have anyways derived that result earlier, I will directly use it, right. So, mu final, what is mu final here? This medium is also mu naught, this is mu naught. So, mu naught by V. So, let us say image is formed at a distance of V and object distance is some u. So, mu naught by V minus initial medium is also mu naught. So, mu naught by u is equal to, how do we write this expression? For the first interface, mu 2 minus mu 1 by R1. For the second interface, mu 3 minus mu 2 by R2, and so on. So, there are only two surfaces. So, I have to write two terms, correct. So, the first term for this surface would be mu L minus mu naught by R1, correct. So, mu L minus mu naught by R1, correct. So, light rays are travelling this way. So, second medium minus first medium's refractive index by R1, right, plus for this interface once again which is like this. So, final medium, the second medium is mu naught, the first medium is mu L. So, for this I should be writing mu naught minus mu L by R2. See, observe one thing here, I am not deriving this something which is specific for this particular case, correct. I have only represented a diagram for you to get an idea, but this expression is a general expression, clear. So, I am not taking which side the image is formed, I am not using any sign convention here, or here. So, all these are general equations. Remember, this expression which we derived in last class was also a general expression, correct. So, whatever we get from here will be the general formula, right. So, whatever I have drawn here is for you to just get an idea. I am not using that the curvature is like this for this surface, the curvature is like this for this surface. I am not using any of that information in this particular expression. So, this is a general formula, clear. Okay. So, now let us simplify this. So, what can I do here? I will be getting, if I take mu naught common, I will get mu naught into 1 by V minus 1 by U is equal to, here I can take mu L minus mu naught common. So, if I take mu L minus mu naught common, this becomes minus 1, right. So, mu L minus mu naught into 1 by R1, but because I have taken mu L minus mu naught out, this becomes minus 1. So, minus 1 by R2, clear. So, that is the expression. If I send this mu naught to the other side, I would be getting 1 by V minus 1 by U is equal to, if mu naught goes here, I will get mu L by mu naught minus 1 into 1 by R1 minus 1 by R2. So, this is the expression which we will be using, clear. So, this is not the lens formula, we do not call it as lens formula as of now, because we have not yet discussed about the concept of focal length, right. So, once we introduce the concept of focal length into this expression, that simplified version is what we call as lens formula. But this one here, for example, if they did not give you the focal length of the lens directly, they have given you the refractive index of this lens, curvature of this surface, curvature of this surface, then you can use this result. Do you understand what I am saying? So, image distance, object distance, this is refractive index of the lens, refractive index of surrounding minus 1 into 1 by R1 minus 1 by R2. So, whenever they are giving you the radius of curvatures of the surfaces of the lens, then you can use this to find the final image formed. But as I told you, we can introduce focal length into this particular concept, right. So, let us try to understand the concept of focal length. So, we have already defined two foci for a lens. We understood that there are two focus, one on this side and the other one on this side, and we call them as primary focus and secondary focus. And we have seen that if I consider a lens like this, once again I am taking a convex lens here. So, depending on which direction the light ray is travelling, so primary focus and secondary focus will change, keep that in mind. So, if light is travelling in this direction from the object, so if this is the object, so where should this object be placed so that the light rays after travelling will become parallel, that will be the primary focus. But if the same case, if the light rays are travelling in this direction, then in that case the object should be placed here, right, such that the light rays which are coming from the object after passing through the lens becomes parallel, right. So, in that case when the light rays are travelling like this, this would be the primary focus. So, do not think that primary focus and secondary focus are fixed. So, if I have a lens like this, this is primary, this is secondary. So, do not think like that. So, it depends on which direction the light rays are travelling. So, that is the reason why you should remember primary focus and secondary focus as per the definition. I will remind you once again that is very important. Primary focus is the value of u, for which V is infinity, clear. So, the value of u for which V is infinity, which means the position where the object should be placed, clear, such that the light rays are becoming parallel after refraction. So, I hope you remember the diagram which we have discussed even just now. So, if the object is here, then after coming from that object the light rays should become parallel, which means the image should form at infinity, clear. So, that is how we define primary focus, correct. Similarly, secondary focus means what? So, try to develop a statement similar to this, try to do it on your own. So, primary focus means u, where should the object be so that image is formed at infinity, that is primary focus, correct. Now, what is secondary focus? So, that can be understood like this, that is the value of V when u is equal to infinity, correct. So, the value of V when u is equal to infinity is called secondary focus. So, this diagram is for the first case. Okay. So, the value of u when the value of V when u is infinity. That means, for example, if I once again take a convex lens, u is infinity means what? The light rays are coming from an object which is at infinity. So, the light rays will be parallel, right. So, if parallel light rays are incident, so where the image is formed is what we call as the secondary focus. So, this length will be the secondary focus. Now, please listen carefully. Whenever we are dealing with a lens, be it convex lens or concave lens, by definition we should consider secondary focus as the principal focus, clear. So, secondary focus is called as the main focus. So, whenever they say that the focus is here, focus is there, so they are always going to refer to secondary focus. So, they will not ever talk about or ask about where the primary focus is, clear. So, secondary focus should be considered as the actual main focus, right. So, this is basically the principal focus. So this is something which you should keep in mind. So whenever we need to write the condition for what the focal length is, clear? Focal length by definition should be understood as the distance at which secondary focus is present. I will write it down here once again. Focal length means the distance of secondary focus from the pole. Clear, students? That is the definition. So whenever you are asked about focus, the first thing that should come to mind is secondary focus. And what does secondary focus mean? So secondary focus basically means it is the value of V when U is infinity. So that is the definition for focus of a lens. So they won't be using the terms primary focus and secondary focus, they will just call focus. So when they just use the term focus, understand that it is secondary focus. And what does secondary focus mean? It is the position where all the parallel beam of light rays will converge or appear to converge. In convex lens case, they actually converge. This one, the parallel beam of light rays will actually converge, right? In the case of concave lens, they appear to converge behind, correct? So that is the idea. So this is how we define the focus of a lens. Clear? Now if I apply this concept in the expression which I derived earlier, so please observe carefully. So using this result which we derived for a lens, I am going to apply the concept of focus to locate where the focus is. Clear? I am going to locate where the focus is. Now what did I just tell you? To understand where the focus is, what should I do? I should find V by making U infinity. That is how we define focus. So make sure that the light rays are coming parallelly and find where the image is formed. So that is how we find the focus, correct? So which means whatever equation which we derived earlier, in that equation, if I make the object distance infinity, the image distance which I get will be the focus. So I can define it like this. V is equal to F when U is equal to infinity. Clear, students? That is the idea. This is a very, very important concept. So please understand this once again. Clear? So when I am combining these two, so if I am applying the concept of focus into the equation which we just derived, so please observe, I am going to substitute U is equal to infinity, and in such a scenario whatever V I get will be F, will be the focus. That is the definition, correct? So when I substitute, I will get 1 by F minus 1 by infinity is equal to mu L by mu naught minus 1 into 1 by R1 minus 1 by R2, correct? So you can remove this, I'll remove this and I'll directly write this as 1 by F. So 1 by infinity becomes 0, so that becomes 1 by F, and this is the final formula which we get for focal length of a lens. Clear? So this is how we find out the focal length of a lens. So please observe carefully. So what we have done here is, first we derived the result for where the image is formed for a particular object in the case of a lens. Clear? So by looking at that, I understood how and where the image is formed for an object. Then what did I do? I applied the concept of focus. What is the concept of focus? Focus is the position where the image is formed for object at infinity. So when I make the object distance infinity, whatever image distance I get is defined as focus. So 1 by F is equal to this is the expression which we get, and this result is what we call as lens maker's formula. Lens maker's formula. Clear? And as the name suggests, lens makers. Okay, so lens maker's formula. So as the name suggests, it is basically the method or the expression which helps us in the manufacturing of lens, clear. So lens makers, which means manufacturers, will definitely will be using this idea or this expression to let us say create any lens. So for example, if they need a lens of a particular focal length, let us say 20 centimeters or something like that. So if f should be 20 centimeters, they will decide what should be the values of R1 and R2 they should be using, because they would generally know lens refractive index and surroundings refractive index, right. So based on that, the focal length can be adjusted, clear. So that is why as this expression helps us in creating lens of a particular focal length. So we call that as lens maker's formula, right. Okay. So we will see how to use this lens maker's formula, right. Okay, students, so this is the lens maker's formula, right. So now if you observe here, so there are few important points which you will have to know about this. So the f, the focal length of a particular lens, will depend on the geometrical shape of that lens or the curvature of the two surfaces, right. As R1 and R2 changes, we can say that the focal length also changes. So it depends on how curved the lens is, clear. So that is the idea, it depends on the geometry. So if I write focal length, it depends on focal length depends on curvatures, both the curvatures, right. It depends on refractive index of both lens and the medium. So this is a very important point. Remember that the focal length of a lens will depend on the refractive index of the medium also. What that means is a lens, if it has a focal length of let us say some f naught in air, the same lens, if you take the same lens and you take it into let us say another medium, let us say you are placing the same lens in water, right. So if the same lens is placed in water, then it will have a different focal length, clear. So in this case it will have a different focal length f, and we can say that f is not equal to f naught. So that is the basic idea. So the focal length of a lens will change with the medium, and you can easily calculate how much focal length will it have in a different medium by using this expression, clear. So we will see some examples based on that also. For example, if I know the focal length of a lens in air, which means when I substitute mu naught as 1, I would know the focal length. Then what will be the focal length of the same lens when I place in a different medium, clear. You know how to, you can understand how to deal with such cases. We will solve some examples also based on that, clear. Okay. Now the next important point here is that focal length of a convex lens is positive, focal length of a concave lens is negative. Now these two statements are very important, clear. So like we have discussed in the case of mirrors also, if you remember. So if I consider a concave mirror will always have a negative focal length, you remember, because light rays will be incident in this manner, the focus will be on this side, clear. So concave mirror will always have negative focal length, and convex mirror will have a positive focal length, you remember that, right. So in the same manner, even here also, convex lens will always have a positive focal length, and concave lens will always have a focal length which is negative. I will explain you what is the reason for that. We can understand that from the formula, and also we can understand it logically, right. So let us first understand it with the formula and see why it is that way, right. So first let us consider a convex lens. Okay, now I have a convex lens. Let us say the radius of curvature of this surface is R1, this surface is R2, okay, and I am using the formula for focal length, lens maker's formula. So, mu minus 1 mu relative, I will write it as mu relative. You understand mu relative, right? Relative refractive index of the lens with respect to surrounding. So, I am writing this mu L by mu naught as mu relative. Okay, fine. So, 1 by f is equal to mu relative minus 1 into 1 by R1 minus 1 by R2. So, this is the general expression which we have for the calculation of focal length, right. Okay. So, if I am using the formula for a convex lens, so remember I am using this formula for a convex lens, what am I getting? 1 by f is equal to, this will be a positive value, generally considering that refractive index of lens is greater than the surrounding refractive index. Generally surroundings would be air, right. So, mu L will be greater than mu naught, correct. So, we can say that this mu r relative refractive index will be greater than 1. So, if mu r is greater than 1, then this whole term will be a positive term, right. Okay. Now, coming to this side, so please observe carefully, I would be writing 1 by R1. Can I say that if I take a convex lens, R1 is like this, I mean the curvature is like this, which means the center will be on that side, which means the positive side. Is that clear? So, R1 is positive because the curvature is on this side, whereas R2 is negative because curvature is or center is on this side. So, when I substitute the values, I will be substituting 1 by a positive term here minus 1 by R2, because of the curvature being like this, center will be on this side, so negative. So, 1 by a negative term. Now, look at what am I going to get from here? 1 by positive minus 1 by negative. So, negative will get cancelled and this whole term will also become positive, correct. So, which means 1 by f will be positive into a positive term which is positive. So, you can understand it that way. So, focal length of a convex lens will be positive for sure, clear. Not just this lens, you know that there are different types of convex lens. You can also take a plano convex lens, or you can also take a concavo convex lens, which would be something like this, right. So, a concavo convex lens. So, whether you use the formula, this lens maker's formula for this lens which has curvature like this, both spherical surfaces like this, or whether you use it for a plano convex lens or for a concavo convex lens, clear. For each of these three cases, you will definitely get focal length as positive, because see, think logically, see, convex lens by definition is something which is converging in nature, right. So, if I take any of these lens, for example, let us say I am taking plano convex lens. So, I have a plano convex lens, and if parallel beam of light is incident onto it, so where will the light rays converge? Where is the image formed for object at infinity? So, if the object is at infinity, where is the image formed? Is the image formed on the positive side or on the negative side? Converging means on the positive side, correct. So, the light rays are converging on the positive side. So, this location of focus will be on the positive side. So, that is why we say for a convex lens, any type of convex lens, it could be this or this, right, whatever be the curvatures, as long as it is a convex lens. So, this whole term will become positive, clear. So, please keep that in mind. The parameter 1 by R1 minus 1 by R2, once you substitute the values with sign convention, is always positive, for a convex lens, lens. Clear? So, that is the concept which we will have to understand here. And similarly, and is always negative, and is always negative for a concave lens. Clear, students? So, that is the idea. So, you can verify that by taking some values also, but substitute the values of R1 and R2 with sign convention. Clear? So, for example, if I consider this, so if I consider this plano convex lens, let us see what will be the value. You know that R1 is infinity and R2, whatever be the value, it will be negative. Correct? R2 will definitely be negative. So, in this particular case, when I substitute, this becomes 0, R2 is negative. So, minus of negative will become positive once again, right. This is positive, this will also be positive if it is in air. Clear? Positive, positive means focal length is also positive. So, keep in mind that whenever we have a positive focal length, please I am repeating this once again, focal length is equal to positive implies converging nature of lens. Only converging light rays will converge on the positive side, correct. But if I consider a diverging lens, let me write that here. So, if I consider a diverging lens, so if the diverging lens is like this, which means a concave lens, so the light rays will diverge in this manner. So, if a parallel beam of light rays are incident, the light rays will diverge in this manner. You see here, when parallel light rays are incident, where is the image formed? So, object is here at infinity. So, light rays are coming parallel to the lens and they are diverging, right, the light rays are diverging. So, in this scenario, where is the image formed? The image is formed here. This is the image, correct. So, which means whenever the light rays are diverging for a parallel beam, can I say that the image will be formed on the negative side? So, this is on the negative side, correct, which means focal length is negative. So, focal length is negative will imply diverging nature of lens. So, please keep this in mind, think about this once again, diverging nature of lens. So, this is a very important point. So, I will repeat once again, please see, positive focal length means that the light rays which are incident parallelly onto the lens are converging on the positive side, which means they are actually converging, correct. So, convex lens will actually converge the light rays. So, that is why they are converging on the positive side. So, focal length is positive, right. But in the case of a diverging lens, it is the other way around, right. So, it diverges, they appear to converge on the negative side. So, diverging lens will have negative focal length, or like I told you, if you substitute the values of R1 and R2 for a concave lens, like I have written here, the parameter, this parameter is always positive for any kind of convex lens, and similarly it is always negative for any kind of concave lens. So, concave lens, you know that there are three types once again, biconcave, which will have its surfaces like this, clear, and plano concave and convexo concave. So, all three types of concave lens will have this negative, right. We will see examples when I solve some examples, you will clearly understand what I am telling, but even without that also it should be clear, because this is the nature of those lens and it is very important, right. So, that is the idea, students. I hope you have understood this. So, I will give you a brief idea once, please observe once again. So, first I have told you focal length of a lens depends on what parameters. So, focal length depends on radius of curvature as well as the refractive index of both medium and lens. And I have told you that when I change the lens from one medium to other medium, the focal length changes. So, let me write that here, focal length of lens changes with medium, right? And you know the reason why, because mu naught changes. Once mu naught changes, f changes as well. Okay. Then focal length of a convex lens is always positive, focal length of a concave lens is always negative. So, never forget these 2 points, clear. And I have told you the reason why they are positive and negative. Convex lens will have positive focal length all the time, because this parameter is always positive, right. And by the same logic, concave lens will have a negative value of 1 by R1 minus 1 by R2. So, focal length of concave lens is always negative as well, clear. So, that is the idea, and later I explained that by using the ray diagram for parallel beam. Convex lens will converge a parallel beam on the positive side, whereas a diverging lens, a concave lens will, when a parallel beam of light is incident on it, it diverges the light rays, making us think that the light rays are converging on the negative side. So, negative focal length, right. So, once again, finally, we can say that focal length is the position where the light rays appear to meet or actually meet when parallel beam is incident, right. So, when parallel beam is incident, they actually meet on the positive side, focal length positive. Similarly, when parallel beam of light is incident, the light rays diverge. So, they do not actually meet. So, they appear to meet on the negative side. So, focal length is negative. That is the idea, students. So, whenever you are getting confused with what is the sign of focal length, just draw this parallel ray diagram, clear. So, for a convex lens it would be like this, for a concave lens it would be like this, right. So, students, now let us discuss this question based on lens maker's formula, right. So, they are asking us to find the focal length of a concavo convex lens with curvatures of 20 centimeter and 30 centimeters, and refractive index of lens is 3 by 2. So, now if you look at this, what type of lens is this? I have told you that whatever comes second is the nature of the lens, right. So, concavo convex lens is basically a convex lens. Okay. So, they have given us the two curvatures, 1 by 20, 1 by 30, sorry, I mean 20 centimeters and 30 centimeters. When I substitute, it would be 1 by 20 and 1 by 30, right. Okay. So, when I take the expression 1 by f is equal to, let me substitute, mu L by mu naught. So, mu L is 3 by 2. Whenever it is not mentioned, you can consider the surrounding to be air. So, 3 by 2 by 1 is 3 by 2 minus 1 into 1 by R1 minus 1 by R2. Now, what should I substitute here? See, one thing you can do here is, because they have given that, where is that? So, concavo convex lens, you should definitely get a positive value here, because that is a convex lens. So, with that idea you can substitute, but that is not a correct way. The actual way is to understand what is the shape of that lens, how would that lens look like, clear. So, if I draw a concavo convex lens, you know that it should have a sharp edge, right. So, it should be something like this, right, do you agree. So, if let us say this one has R1 curvature and this one has R2 radius of curvature. Now, think properly and try to understand this. When we have two surfaces like this, listen to the question which I am asking you properly. When we have a convex lens, concavo convex lens, R1 is greater than R2 or R2 is greater than R1, which of these is correct, or anything is possible. So, in this particular case, this is R1, this is R2, which of these two cases would be correct. So, think about that once. So, in this case what you can say is, for a convex lens to form, definitely R1 should be greater than R2, right. If you look at this scenario, so this surface should be more flatter and this surface should be more curved. Only then a more curved surface, when it meets a more flat surface, then a sharp edge would be formed. Do you understand? If it happens the other way around, let us say if the more curved surface is in front and less curved is at the back, let me draw that also. So, more curved is at the front and more flat is at the back, something like this. So, what happens here? They do not intersect at all. So, this would be separate, this would be separate. So, what type of lens is this which is formed by two surfaces not intersecting? You know that is a concave lens, right. So, even in this concave lens, this surface which is at the back is more, it is having more radius of curvature, and the one which is on the inside is having less radius of curvature. But here for a convex lens, we can say that the inside surface should be having larger radius of curvature and the backside surface should be having smaller radius of curvature. So, that is the idea. So, from this I can understand that R1 should be the larger in magnitude. So, this is R1 and this is R2. Clear, students? So, you should have this idea, right. Okay. Now, what about the values I should substitute here, the signs I should substitute here? You can see that clearly both are curved onto this side itself. This is also curved onto this side and this is also curved onto this side. So, which means both can be substituted as negative, right. So, R1 minus 30 minus, here I should be substituting minus 20. Clear, students? So, that is the idea. So, when I substitute, when I simplify this, I have 1 by 2 here into, what do I get here, minus 1 by 30 plus, this becomes plus 1 by 20. So, solving this will give me 1 by 20 minus 1 by 30 will be, I am writing f, right. So, f will be equal to 2 goes to the numerator into, the inverse of this would be 30 into 20 divided by 30 minus 20, which is 10. So, 0 and 0 gets cancelled. 30 into 4 is 120 centimeters. So, that should be the focal length and it will definitely be a positive value because it is a convex lens. So, that is what I told you earlier. If you are substituting the values correctly by looking at the curvatures and understanding which one should be where and which one is the bigger one and which one is the smaller one, you will definitely get a positive value for a convex lens and a negative value for a concave lens. Clear? Let us take one more example so that you understand this very clearly. So, let us take a scenario where we have a concave lens. This time we will do for a concave lens. Let us say the concave lens is a plano-concave lens, right. So, it is a plano-concave lens. Okay. So, this is a lens which is having a curvature of 20 centimeters, one surface is 20 centimeters and you can easily understand that the other surface, because it is a plane surface, the radius of curvature of such a surface can be taken as infinity, right. Okay. Now, what we need to do is we need to find the focal length of this lens, find its focal length, find its focal length in water, clear. So, they have given that refractive index of the lens is 3 by 2 and refractive index of water is 4 by 3. Okay, fine. Now, let us derive. So, when I substitute the formula, 1 by f is equal to, what is the value I should substitute? Lens refractive index divided by water refractive index, which means I should take 3 by 2 divided by 4 by 3. What do I get? 9 by 8. So, 9 by 8 minus 1 into 1 by R1 minus 1 by R2. So, 1 by, so for this I do not have to worry, it is infinity. So, I do not have to worry whether it is positive or negative, right, minus 1 by, see the curvature of this, it is like this, which means center is on this side correct. Center of this will be on this side, which means I should be taking the value of R2 as positive, correct. You can understand, right. So, this is how the surface is. So, the center of that would be on this side, which means on the positive side, clear. So, I should be substituting it as plus 20. So, plus 20, that is it. So, simplifying this will give me the value 1 by f is equal to, what is the value I am going to get, 1 by 8 into, what is this, minus 1 by 20, clear. So, you can easily say that simplifying this will give me the value of f as minus 160 centimeters. Now, they can ask you a question like this. So, if it is placed in water, is it still a diverging lens or a converging lens? I have told you earlier that when I discussed about the lens in the starting in last class, I have told you that if I take a convex lens will be a converging lens in air, but if it is placed in a medium having higher refractive index, it becomes diverging, right. So, in the same manner, this is a diverging lens in air, but if it is placed in a medium having refractive index greater than it, clear, it will automatically become a converging lens. So, let us understand that by an example. So, let us take the same case and find its focal length in a medium with mu is equal to 2, clear. So, you can definitely say that refractive index of the medium now is greater than the refractive index of lens. So, let us see what happens in this scenario. I will use the lens maker's formula once again. 1 by f is equal to, what do I get? 1 by f is equal to mu of lens 3 by 2 by mu of medium. So, 3 by 2 by 2 is 3 by 4, correct, minus 1 into, now I can substitute this as it is, that is a parameter which does not depend on the medium, that is a parameter which depends on the geometry of the lens. Do you understand what I am saying? So, this 1 by R1 minus 1 by R2 is a geometry related phenomenon. So, the same value will be substituted here. So, I can directly take it as 1 by infinity minus 1 by 20. So, simplify this and see what am I getting. So, I have minus 1 by 4 here. So, I have 1 by f is equal to minus 1 by 4 into minus 1 by 20. So, simplifying this will give me the value of f as plus 80 centimeters, right. So, what does plus indicate? I have told you earlier, plus of focal length, positive focal length implies converging nature, which means this lens, if it is placed in a medium having higher refractive index. So, let us say this is a medium which is having higher refractive index. What happens is that when a parallel beam of light is incident on this lens, it will automatically converge that lens, converge those light rays at a distance of 80. So, that is what it means, clear. So, do not think that a concave lens will always be a diverging lens. So, when I say that a concave lens is diverging, that is in a general scenario of air medium, clear. But depending on the medium, the magnitude of focal length can change, even the sign of focal length also can change, which means focal length sign changing means what? The nature of the lens itself can change. A converging can behave as diverging, a diverging can behave as converging also. So, that is the idea, students. So, please go through this scenario once again. So, the lens maker's formula, right. So, the idea is pretty simple, as long as you are clear about how to substitute the values of R1 and R2, rest will be very simple, clear. So, if you are making these substitutions carefully, then lens maker's formula is a very simple case, right. And keep in mind, converging positive focal length, diverging negative focal length, right. So, students, finally, So, to summarize what we have discussed, so these are the two relations which we discussed today. So, the first one is the result which we derived by considering first surface refraction, second surface refraction to finally locate where the image is formed. Clear? So, that is what is the equation which we wrote for image formation. Then what we did? We introduced the concept of focal length into this expression. We understood what the focal length is, and from that we got the value of focal length to be equal to this value, this numerical value. Whatever numerical value which we have here, remember that this is just a numerical value, correct? So, this value is just a number, all these are just magnitudes. So, by changing the object's distance, this position or this value is not going to change. So, just look at this whole thing as a number, right, which is also the focal length or 1 by focal length, right. Now, observe closely, because this is a pure number and the value of that pure number is equal to inverse of focal length, what I am going to do is, I am going to combine these two and substitute, replace this with 1 by f, and what I finally get is 1 by v minus 1 by u is equal to 1 by f, a very simplified relation which directly gives me the relation between object distance, image distance and focal length. See, remember whatever we have learned till now is to calculate that focal length. How do we calculate the focal length? If refractive indices and radius of curvatures are known. But let us say we know the focal length and we need to find the image, then we can use this result, and this result is what we call as lens formula, right. So, just like we have mirror formula 1 by u plus 1 by v is equal to 1 by f, lens formula will be 1 by v minus 1 by u is equal to 1 by f. Clear? So, today the time will not permit for us to solve the questions based on this. Clear? So, but you can practice, because you know what the parameters are, you know how to substitute the values, correct, you know how to use sign conventions. So, definitely do practice on these cases. I will definitely give you questions on application of this expression also apart from these two. Clear? So, students, today's class has a lot of concepts involved. I would suggest you go through this once again. I guess you will be getting time later on also after this. After this class, we will be only starting with a gap of 4 or 5 days, I guess. So, during this time please utilize that and try to go through this lecture once again, because lens is very, very important in optics, right. So, go through this once again and make sure you are practicing the questions on lens formula as well. I will be giving you questions from lens formula as well. Clear?